Good afternoon on what is a mild, bright and sunny day. It is Thursday the 23rd of February. I've got a nice hot cup of tea and some parcels to my box, including this one. Let's find out what I've got here. I'll take the knife to it. It's been quite well wrapped. There we go. So, close it and then that comes off. And what I've got is that, but I can't quite tell what it is. Almost there, through this wrapping. What I've got here is actually two volumes. It's Quests of Doom, Adventures Worth Winning, Volume 1, and Quests of Doom, Adventures Worth Winning, Volume 2. So, Quests of Doom, Volume 1, it's from Necromancer Games, 5th edition compatible, and it promises 12 adventures of old school goodness. We brought together some of the best authors in the business to add fun to your gaming night, with a choice of adventures from the categories of bugs and blobs, demons and devils, giants and dragons, lycanthropes and elementals, men and monstrosities, and vampires and liches. There's sure to be something for every type at your table, whether they're gaming neophytes or seasoned veterans. Characters level 1 to 20 will all find a challenge within. Now, this is reminiscent of something a bit like the Book of Challenges, which was a book for Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, which is sort of like a book of scenarios, really designed to cover play from levels 1 through to 20 and offer a challenge at kind of each level. So what have we got inside here? Look, this is published in 2015, and we've got essentially the table of contents, and as you can see, what you've got those categories I read out, so beds and bugs, you know, the vampires and liches, men and monstrosities and so on, and you've got two entries for each. So it really isn't anything in the way of introduction. We are literally into, here's the first section, beds, bugs and blobs, and dealing with the noble rot at a chateau. So we've essentially got adventure hooks, description of the location, and so on, more detailed descriptions. Quite large maps, given how plain they are as maps, not too bad artwork. A cellar, and again, these could have been a bit smaller, I think, given just how much information they've got on them, you know, and you know just how ordinary they are. And it's just going through essentially the description of the whole location. It's quite detailed, you know. And there at the end we have the monsters listed. So new monsters, living vines, olive slime zombie, and so on. Olive slime zombie, horse, slime demon, wine slime. So the author's clearly taken the idea of the slime and really pushed it a bit further than you might expect. I love the idea of there being a wine slime, let alone an olive slime. So, you know, you just think that's sort of like a classic kind of chateau where you have vines and olive trees, that sort of thing. I don't know whether you grow them together in the same area, but the combination is attractive, you know. But, so continuing the Bugs and Blobs Hidden Oasis Temple of Thoth, and this is by Matt Finch and Bill Webb. And essentially, you've got a bit of introductions. So let's just say the introduction for Hidden Oasis, Temple of Thoth. Bring the characters to a hidden Temple of Thoth, god of knowledge, magic, and travel, where they're confronted with a force invading extra-dimensional locust creatures and the chance to get their hands on an ancient artifact. So we've got the Oasis and some kind of structure, a tower, a bit plain. And the old temple. So actually, it's actually more interesting than you think, because there we go. There's just the map with the old temple there, marked with the door on the outside there. I'll show you that. But we do have a later map here. That's more detailed. That's a little bit more interesting in terms of its layout. Unlikely for your average player group, a bit difficult to kind of map. So we've got statues of Thoth and Sekhmet, and then we've got lotus portals of Thoth through, of course, which the giant slug of Panak are coming through, and there they are. There's anything, nobody likes a slug monster, and we've got other monsters with claws and pincers, I think. A plain hopper assault from basically that's the locust species. Oh, show you detail. And more over the page. So we've got some really nice illustrations here of the monsters, and they're suitably alien. And this is great if you're playing sort of like a campaign set in Egypt, or the analogue of Egypt in your setting. A bit more difficult to place elsewhere. And then we get on to demons and devils. So Ra's evil grin, again following through sort of like on this Egyptian theme. I am basically just wondering how many Egyptian themed adventures there are going to be in these 2 volumes. Because of course I'll come back to the second volume in another video. So that's actually quite short as an adventure, as the adventures go. So it's that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, quite short. And then we have Sorcerer's Citadel. Again, and got a nice map of a citadel for your sorcerer. Kind of a classic one, and again, this is quite short. But beneath it, you've got Dungeon of Crane the Sorcerer, and these are the sort of things that are quite easy to kind of add to your campaign. They're determine and tie them in and so on, I should imagine. And then in the Giants and Dragons section, we open with the Dead from Above. So not necessarily much to see there, but essentially it does involve the dead, an ossuary, a loft on dead wings, including an undead wyvern, skeletal wyvern, with the guidelines. It's actually saying there's guidelines here for flying a skeletal dragon, so it's actually a dragon, I think. And then we've got the ossuary itself. Again, that's a little bit much more detailed than earlier. And this is on several levels. We've got the second level there. And ossuary is always great for adventure because essentially you've got the whole mystery of sort of like all the dead and the undead, and or whomever is essentially in charge of the ossuary, whether or not they're using it for evil ends or someone else is using it for evil ends. And there's ossuary level 3, that's the third level. So plenty of options there of how to use an ossuary, and then And then essentially you've got guidance there on the ossuary in the player's hands. What do they do with an ossuary after they've captured it? Because obviously, in some cases, it's sort of like, okay, the adventure ends, the player characters go, what do we do next? Oh, let's go on to the next adventure, sort of thing. Well, what do they do? They're in charge of this thing. That's a fantastic option for further adventures. So you only got advice for that there. Appendix of new magical items and monsters. Magical items and sort of like they're all kind of bone themed. So the belt of bones, braces of spectres, new monsters, bone guardian, and so on. Emeralds of the High Fang. That's by Ed Greenwood. Created Forgotten Realms. And it's a Giant's Warren. Giants are sort of classic monsters going all the way back to G1, Steading of the Hill Giant Chief. And here we've got them occupying a mine. And the mill and so on, and they're always a big threat because it's literally a big threat, because they're larger. And this is quite a detailed, quite a lengthy adventure. We've got lycanthropes and elementals, so Bad Moon Rising, and that's, it's a lycanthrope story. Bad Moon Rising, classic kind of title. Exactly what you kind of would expect. And here you show you essentially you've got a town or a village under siege by lycanthropes, likely the player characters will have to hold out at this manor. And then we have the barony of Loup Montaigne, and that's kind of a classic sort of setup. You have an area which is under thrall of lycanthropes, and that includes the nobility and so on, and they have this whole area under their thrall and control, and it's up to the player characters to go in and sort it out. And so even a situation here where you have dinner with the Baron and the situation worsens, so it's almost like you have that sort of like the whole thing of Jonathan Harker and Dracula going to Dracula's castle. You encounter the villain in his lair, in his home. And then Death in the Dry Gallus. And this will be the elemental adventure, I suspect. And again, you've got adventure hooks and so on to get the player characters interested to investigate this pavilion. And what might be found in it. And with the idea of the pavilion, you've also got not necessarily a European film. You still easily go back to that kind of Egyptian theme, or Middle Eastern, if you will. In that kind of similar analogue in your world. Then we have Men and Monstrosities. Beginning with Deep in the Vale, which is by James M. Ward. Not quite sure what this one is about. It's and it's for first level characters. This is basically it's an introductory adventure. With Explorer, but basically, essentially, it's sort of like an area adventure, a small wilderness adventure, exploring the Vale, encountering the dangers, and so on. Things like events like Wolves in the Night, Goblins of the Dark Night, the Dark Forest, Orcs of the Forest, and so on. Dealing with a wizard in their midst. So it's almost like there's a bit more to it. There's a little bit of a mini sort of like campaign feel to it. And this is followed by just check Etep's Dish, which is all about an eccentric wizard. and a casino, so you've got something else to be doing rather than just killing monsters. You've got a bit of interaction and role play, and so on. And then encountering the wizard later in his tower. And then you have a strange. You literally have a mini area within the tower, and so on, where the player characters have to survive and explore the region in order to get out and essentially, ultimately, find Urtip's Island. And all that takes place in the tower. And then we've got an appendix of all the monsters and so on. So that's quite a larger adventure, including, and it also basically you've got Urtip and his associates, and then you've got Urtip's creditors. So you, instead of sort of like going, oh, there's difficulty at the wizard's tower, there's that wizard owes us money. Go and collect it. And then we have the Pyramid of Amra, and again we come back to vaguely Middle Eastern sort of like Egyptian theme running through the collection, which is sort of great if you've got that kind of campaign going, if you want to run something sort of like in sort of like inspired by that. And here we have the actual step pyramid itself. Quite a small one for mine. Inside, so on, and basically then we've got the new monsters at the back there. So then we have Sewers of the Underguild, kind of a classic sort of like location under a city or town. The player characters have to explore and so on, and deal with certain threats in there, like a vampire ruse or a shrine to Thanatos, and slave chambers and more. So yeah, that is Adventures Worth Winning, Adventures of Doom Volume 1. I'll look at Volume 2 later on. This looks like an interesting collection of scenarios. Probably, it's the sort of thing that scenarios generally for Dungeons & Dragons you're not always familiar with the ones that don't come from Wizards of the Coast. The others kind of get lost amongst the crowd, but Necromancer Games is a tried and tested publisher of content for Dungeons & Dragons and similar fantasy role-playing games. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a package or box from which I will unbox a book or game and chat about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.